Hello, this is AIT live in Abuja. Welcome to the program Road to 2023. I am Imuni Amarere. We begin the program with some latest developments. Former Deputy President of the Nigerian Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, has been denied bail again by the Central Criminal Court in London. Ekweremadu is standing trial for alleged organ harvesting. In a pre-trial hearing on Tuesday, the court denied him bail on the grounds that he was a flight risk. The court held that as a holder of international passports of 2 other countries, the lawmaker could escape to any of the other countries aside from Nigeria. The prosecution also cited an 18th July 2022 letter by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, signed by the Assistant Director Operations, Abdulkarim Chukoy, on behalf of the Executive Chairman, Abdulrasheed Bawa, which referred to the access for future proceedings against Ekweremadu in the Federal High Court in Abuja. And in Taraba State, the Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Joseph Kunini, has resigned. Kunini said he resigned on personal grounds. John Bozena, a People's Democratic Party member representing Zing constituency, has been elected to replace him. Now, moving away from that, it is 66 days to the presidential election in Nigeria. All resources are being put together to achieve a seamless electoral process. One of the major recurring challenges of election day activities in Nigeria has been the movement of election materials to polling stations. The materials either arrive late or never get to their destinations, thereby casting doubts on the credibility of the process. In an effort to resolve the challenges, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has signed a revised Memorandum of Understanding with Road Transport and Marine Workers Unions to help provide over 100,000 vehicles and about 4,200 boats for the movement of personnel and materials that will be deployed for the 2023 general elections. The unions in the arrangement are the National Union of Road Transport Workers, National Association of Road Transport Owners, and the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria. This will be our focus on the program today. But before we go into our talking point, let's go around the country and bring you political developments on our political tidbits segment.
And welcome to Political Tidbits. I am Funke Ogunlolu. In the judiciary, the Director General of the Peter Obi Presidential Council Organization, Doyin Okupe, who was recently sentenced to 2 years in prison on money laundering charges by the Abuja Federal High Court, has appealed the judgment of the trial court. This was made known by Okupe's lawyer, Tolu Babaleye, in an interview with AIT. No date has been fixed for hearing of the appeal.
Dr. Doyin Okupe is just a victim of circumstance. He's a victim of honest mistake. He has been used to test the law. But I can assure you that we'll test that law to the highest level, if God permits. As I talk to you, he has briefed his lawyers to file an appeal. And I can tell you that appeal has been filed against that judgment.
Meanwhile, Labour Party Clean Up Nigerian Project has commended the former Director General of Obidati's Presidential Campaign Council, Doyin Okupe, for tendering his resignation after the court's 2-year prison sentence on the money laundering charges. They stated this at an event held in Abuja aimed at reminding Nigerians to shun electoral malpractices towards voting the right candidates at the 2023 general elections.
Our DG has resigned. we are bringing up a new DG, and it has never happened. We know what we do at Six Tide. Every other Nigerians have said it. From opposition, I talked to a lot of people that said, your DG is not going, you are just like us. I said, no. Within 48 hours, you will see action. And then he listened. And one of the things he said is that, I'm going to be an example of that new Nigeria that everybody is dreaming. I'm going to step aside. I will be part of the movement, but I will step aside so that we show Nigerians it's not going to be business as usual. If you are doing the wrong thing, you have to excuse yourself. Obi Dati movement, the obedient movement, are not saying that we are clean, but we are trying to clean up. That's what we said.
The Ralph Umosu-led African Democratic Congress Party has asked the general public to ignore the Abuja Federal High Court judgment of Justice Bita Nyako, which removed the factional national chairman of the party on Tuesday. Umosu was reacting to the order declaring all steps taken by his leadership from the 21st of August 2022 till date as null and void. But on the flip side, the Patricia Akuchiki-led caretaker committee commended the court for standing with the just. The court had recognized Akuchiki's group.
This battle has always been about right and wrong. It has never been about me. It has never been about you people.
No.
It's a simple matter of right and wrong. There are many people who said to me, feel sorry for this man, he started the party, it's his party. There were those who said to me, how can you do this to your Igbo brother? There are people who said to me, it's a matter between North and South. There was nothing that was not said to me. I was blackmailed everywhere. INEC, as the umpire in electoral matters, took a stand against us. It was a very difficult battle.
Some youth in Taraba State under the aegis of Nigerian Network for the Promotion of the Rule of Law is calling for the unconditional release of persons arrested by the police for allegedly inciting political violence. The youth staged a peaceful protest in Jalingo, the Taraba State capital, to drive home their demand.
Plead with you and your members, please listen to the voice of wisdom and advice. Let us try and get the letter so that we can address it properly. And then the two parties will be happy. We are supposed mistakes can be made, and mistakes can equally be also corrected if it is properly handled. But once it is not properly handled, we shall be putting more mistakes again on the already existing mistakes.
We've heard from you, from the voice of reason. We appreciate your civil engagement with us. Want to say a big thank you for that. All we are asking for is that good governance be deeply engendered, in line with the ethos and the demands of the rule of law.
As part of ongoing efforts to increase the chances of youth and women winning elective positions during national elections, Yaga Africa has kickstarted what it describes as political organizing lab to get youth and female candidates prepared for the tasks ahead, the 2023 general elections. The latest effort by Yaga Africa follows a preliminary report in October 2022, which indicates a 28.6% representation for youth vying for elective positions in the build-up to the elections next year. The All Progressives Congress APC's presidential candidate, Bola Tinubu, says his government will conquer hunger through massive agricultural programs across the country, starting from Cross River State, if elected Nigeria's president. Tinubu stated this during a town hall meeting organized by the All Progressives Congress Campaign Council at the Cultural Center, Calabar, with the Cross River State electorates. The APC presidential candidate said he will work with the new governor of Cross River State and other states to provide agricultural mechanization to boost food security.
We can think beyond the hoe and cutlass. We can mechanize our farms. We can engineer the capacity to develop good, great things. What is my concern is development of Nigeria. And we are the only ones to change our fortune. Moving Nigeria forward is a task that must be done.
The campaigners for the 64-day civic action towards the 2023 general elections want President Muhammadu Buhari to direct the Inspector General of Police to hold any police officer or security agent assigned to polling units be held responsible for security lapses and vote buying during the polls. The campaigners stated this at a session in Abuja. And still on politics, the People's Democratic candidate in Kano's governorship election, Aminu Wali, has been presented with a party flag to signify the commencement of campaigns in the state. The National Vice Chairman Northwest, Bello Hayatu, promised to leave back Kano State till the PDP come 2023.
A lot of doubters have been proven wrong. PDP is alive, is well, and is going to move forward in Kano State. Our promise is that we'll restore the former glory of Kano, we'll restore the economic prosperity of Kano, we'll make sure we expand on agriculture, on industry, and we'll make sure that at the end of the day, our education system is not surpassed anywhere in Africa.
And finally, the modern traditional medicine practitioners has given its nod to the presidential ambition of former Lagos State Governor Bola Tinubu. The president of the organization, Dada Nakowa, says it is in their best interest to support the Tinubu-Shettima tickets. And that's where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Wednesday's Political Tidbits. I am Funke Ogulolu.
We are pledging our support. You understand now? We have talked to all our members throughout the federation in the socio-political zone to stand up to vote Tinubu and Shettima, because they are leaders who we knew that we are going to have a better change of life through.
We native doctor, some of us were witches and wizards. Election when we not do for night. Now who win for night, then they win when they break. When all of us agree that Tinubu is going to win election, by the grace of God is going to win election. Why we say is going to win election? Because of this government now. Not that we are not happy with the government, but we need government who can be able to recognize the traditional doctor.
All right, traditional doctors there are putting forward their own political agenda. Now to our talking point, which is on the logistics arrangements for the 2023 elections. To set the stage for our discussion, let's bring you a report on the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and the transport unions, which took place in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, on Tuesday.
The movement of sensitive and non-sensitive electoral materials, as well as electoral officials, during elections is a very crucial aspect of the electoral process. To ensure effective logistics before and after the election, an arrangement between the electoral umpire and the NURTW was bettered in 2015. This gathering has looked at past deployment and is reviewing plans ahead of the 2023 elections. A memorandum of understanding will be signed between INEC and the transport unions, which will this time include the Maritime Union workers.
In view of the challenges we encountered in the riverine areas of the country, it has become necessary to include the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria, comprising sailors, dock workers, and those in related trades in our logistic planning and delivery. INEC is now in partnership with 3 unions, the National Union of Road Transport Workers and the National Association of Road Transport Owners for Land Transportation and the Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria for the riverine areas. The Memorandum of Understanding we are about to sign today is a general framework. The contractual agreement between the Commission and the actual service providers will be worked out at state and local government levels between officials of the unions and our resident electoral commissioners and electoral officers. The agreement, which is legally binding, will be based on the actual breakdown of the number of vehicles and boats per state. It is therefore significant that our reps are present here today to witness the formal signing of the framework that will enable detailed work at state and local government level.
And for equally recognizing Maritime Workers of Nigeria, I want to thank the INEC chairman and his team. Well, everybody has spoken. What is important is commitment. Commitment, dedications to serve this great country. We are here on behalf of the union to say a very big thank to you, sirs, and to let you know that we are going to support this, our program, to make it as successful as everybody has spoken. Maritime Workers of Nigeria is comprised of 4 branches: the Nigeria Port Authority, the shipping branch, the seafarer that cross across the port on the water, then the shipping branch. So that is why I'm the President General. I have 4 presidents under me.
For Action Aid Nigeria and the Enhancing Logistics Delivery and Citizens' Participation in Nigeria Elections project, this gathering is to serve as a training of trainers with the transport union workers whose leadership have assured of their readiness to ensure success in the 2023 elections.
And I hope that we can hold everybody accountable. We hold INEC accountable for the signing of the MOU. We hold all the maritime workers and also the transport owners and transport workers. Each and every one of them is held accountable. I like their commitment, and I hope that at the end of the day, you know, there is a before and after. After the elections, we should be smiling, because I think this is a huge step. What we are asking for is that everywhere you find yourself, to be a citizen is a special responsibility, and that's an obligation. And we are saying 2023 general election is the future of Nigeria. So wherever you are, you will be writing your own history. You'll be part of a failure or your own history. But we cannot be pointing at INEC and not looking at ourselves. We are all responsible. So do your work and let me do my work, and let everybody do their work. A failure is a failure. You know, you can tell people, you know, lies, but you can't tell yourself lies. And it's a conscience as well. And we are asking for the conscience of Nigerians. Don't leave it. It's not just the duty of transport.
And we call on all of them to ensure all hands are on deck, to ensure we have 100% perfection. And I believe we'll do it. You know, we from NATO, we consider this assignment a national assignment. Just like in our logo, we see service to the nation, and we will ensure, you know, we give 100% commitment, 100% neutrality, and ensure everything is done as expected. So the only concern we would have is INEC should ensure that is early mobilization of funds so that we'll be able to mobilize our members accordingly. At the same time, also, we should be able to have the requisite number of vehicles required for the exercise, and also full utilization of the vehicles provided.
The unions should keep an eye on the vehicle and boat owners to ensure that when they take personnel and materials to designated locations, they also bring them back at the end of the elections. Your contract is both for forward and reverse logistics. Don't deliver our personnel and materials to locations and leave them to their devices at the end of the election. And that's why we'll not pay you 100% of the contractual agreement. We'll pay 50%. When you accomplish the other task by bringing personnel and materials back, will pay the balance. But as a matter of duty, please ensure that you take the personnel and materials and bring them back, particularly where they operate at polling unit level, because these are young Nigerians, the majority of them on the National Youth Service Scheme. So please don't abandon them at the end of the exercise. Bring them back the way you took them to those locations.
Stakeholders are hopeful that the challenges identified will make the movement of materials and personnel in the 2023 elections more effective and efficient.
All right, there you have it. The signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between INEC and the transport unions. Now we're joined in the studio by some of the critical stakeholders, those who signed that agreement yesterday, and other critical stakeholders in the Nigeria electoral process here in the studio. First, from my far right or far left, joining me is Emmanuel Njoku, who is a director, Democracy and Governance Institute. Mr. Njoku, thank you so much for joining us. Right. Also joining us is Atiku Zelani Ahmed. Mr. Ahmed is the General Manager Administration, National Association of Road Transport Owners, NATO. Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed, for joining us.
For inviting me.
All right. And we're also joined by the Country Director, Action Aid Nigeria, Ene Obi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Let's put on record that Action Aid Nigeria facilitated this arrangement between this memorandum of understanding between the INEC and the transport unions. So let me then begin with you. What was the motivation for this? Why did Action Aid decide to facilitate this MOU?
Okay, over the years, we have looked at the issues of logistics as a very major issue. And that, because the civil society organizations are involved to also make a difference. And Action Aid is a member of the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room. Ironically, I convened the Situation Room. We have been looking at it and we've been wondering what else can we do in terms of supporting INEC technically. And so we started and were able to get a proposal through to, Ford Foundation. We had some help from FCDO at a point. There was an expert meeting. It was first to bring in some experts, and INEC itself, of course, the willingness of INEC. I think that's one thing that I really, really want to commend the INEC chairman for. The willingness and the massive involvement of INEC officials, in the process, and the commitment as well. And so we brought experts together in Lagos, about 2 months ago, and that took us to looking at, and that included the National Association of Road Transport Workers, the National Association of Road Transport Owners, and then we have all the chiefs of the armed forces. We had the police, we had all the sectors in security, the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Navy, the Nigerian Air Force also involved. We had NACO, because there were so many things that happened that they felt there was a gap to look at a logistic framework for the 2023 general election. And so that came up. The involvement of all those who are involved in flying materials, men and materials, to different locations, and were able to get that support and had the meeting. The commitment of the meeting was held for 2 days, and from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day we were at the work, and the INEC chairman never moved a step, with all the commissioners and many of the recs also, and all the technical people, almost all the directors were involved. And so for me, the beauty of that expert meeting was looking at the road transport workers really giving feedback, because it was a whole review. We started with the review of the last logistics, as was noted by the INEC chairman. There was a memorandum of understanding that was signed in 2015, January 2015, with the National Association of Road Transport Workers. But they improved it because as they were moving forward, they knew that they needed the transport owners as well. And so when they were signing the MOU in 2018, that made them to involve NATO. But while we were doing the expert meeting, they also recognized, including NATO and also NURTW, they were able to look at the possibility, they said, but we do not go to the seas. And I think that was recognized by the Navy as well. The maritime workers, have you involved them? And that brought them in. We were just looking at the gaps and seeing what to do. And that brought in, and INEC recognized that. And that's why the involvement of the Maritime Union. And so progress from there, and then we had to review the framework. So there's a whole framework that has been developed. One of the issues that was noticed too was that a huge aircraft was moved to a particular airport, and there were no instruments to bring the crates down. those kind of crates, the kind of instruments that NACO would need to offload, were not there. And the complaint from NACO is, if you have to fly this particular aircraft to a particular place, you need to let us know.
NACO being what
NACO,
now? So
NACO,
let's understand that. Because aside from those of you who fly regularly and who use the airports.
Sorry, the NACO is the airport handlers, those who handle the cargo, the cargo for all of the airports. And then we had different segments of those who work at the airport were also involved. And what they said that was very clear at the experts meeting is that you need to let us know. We have 2023 staring us. And so tell us now what we should get ready. Which airport, what do you need at particular things? And this was noted. So we're quite excited that yesterday they brought in both the National Association of Road Transport Workers, the presidents and the secretary generals were there. And we had NATO also, that's the National Association of Road Transport Owners, were also there. And then the maritime workers. And the items identified, like if you need about 4,200 boats, you really need the union to be able to coordinate themselves. And if you need about 100,000, vehicles, definitely we have to have all of that. But I think one of the things that interests me is now we had a number of the RECs there. The regional, regions were represented, but we need to look at the details of what will happen at the state headquarters. The EOs and all the workers of INEC, we need to look at that because they were able to identify also that you don't tell us that you need 400 vehicles and then we bring 400 vehicles and you say, no, you need 200 or you need 300. All of those agreements. So, and that's why we say.
So they have to be specifics.
They have to be specific and it needs to be on time. Because they went on to narrate what the issues were, because if the drivers don't have licenses, there are problems. If the vehicles are not roadworthy, there are problems. And so it's important to there was an overview, because after the ceremony, we had to go into the details, and I hope that this has been helpful. You see, the road transport workers are involved to make a difference. And I hope they will be able to do that, because the kind of governance that you bring on board will determine the kind of life that you live. Many of them are road transport owners, the drivers, they suffer every day because most of the roads have collapsed. And so it is important to bring in the government that you can hold accountable, a government that can also deliver in terms of infrastructure. So I hope that they will be able to
This is a national assignment.
It's a national.
Yeah. Mr. Ahmed, what does this MOU entail as far as NATO is concerned? What are those basic things that NATO will be expected to provide in this MOU?
Thank you very much. I think I want to join her also in commending the INEC chairman for taking that bold step, involving transport unions in transportation of these electoral materials and personnel. It is a very good development. Hitherto, I think they were just doing it haphazardly, contracting different kind of people and without getting the kind of result that they needed. Now they can hold people accountable. Now they can say, okay, they have the NURTW, they have the NATO, they have the MAUN, to hold accountable. And these are associations that have built their reputation over time, and they will provide the required services by the grace of God. Then coming back to the question that you asked, I think the expectation is that we should be able to provide the required number of vehicles. We should be able to give vehicles also that are roadworthy, just like Madam said. We should be able to employ drivers that are trustworthy, drivers that will take materials to the desired locations and back, drivers that will be able to access places. So these are some of the requirements, and then these are some of the expectations. And we also are expecting a kind of security arrangement that will guarantee the safety of lives and property of these people that will be involved in this election process. So we expect government to provide security, and in this time of fuel scarcity that we are facing in the country, and probably God knows, only God knows what will happen in February when the election is going to take place, what is going to happen, but we expect the organizers, the INEC, and the facilitators of the program to help us make sure that fuel is available for our vehicles also when the time comes, so that there is no problem, that will become a threat to the whole arrangement. On our part, we are dedicated to the agreements reached. We are committed to ensuring that we will do the job as assigned, and by the grace of God, we are non-partisan. We don't have any problem with that. So I think these are the minimum expectations. We are going to provide as my national president said, as you can quote him, he said, this is a national service. So we consider this exercise truly national service. And that is the kind of patriotism that is driving us to participate in this particular project. So, and we are expecting government and the INEC and others to give us the necessary cooperation to be able to deliver as required.
You thrown up a number of issues, yes. One of which is having roadworthy vehicles, trustworthy drivers that you can bank on, drivers that you can say go to a social location and they know their way, not only know their way there, but they are honest enough to deliver those materials and deliver the personnel in good condition. Now, from what I read of the signing ceremony, you are required to provide 100,000, over 100,000 vehicles, 4,200 boats, and all of that. Does NATO have the capacity?
Yes, capacity
to provide 100,000 roadworthy vehicles?
Yes, we do. And remember also that this is going to be a combined effort. It's not only NATO that is in it, you understand? But whatever is required of NATO, NATO will provide. We have the capacity to do that. And we have shown that capacity during the last election in 2019. Like she rightly mentioned, we signed these agreements back in 2018. And we performed creditably well. There was no any complaint, and that's the reason why this time around also we are asked to come forward. So we don't have any problem. Whatever number of vehicles that are required to perform this exercise, we have the capacity to provide.
Mr. Njoku, let's take a step backwards and look at 2015 and 2019 elections. 2015 was when these arrangements to have the materials and personnel transported to the various polling stations using public transportation. Between then and now, what gaps, what are those major gaps that you think may have been noticed that need to be plugged for the 2023 elections?
Thank you very much. So it's, this kind of platform and conversation is very necessary for citizens to understand these things, because a couple of people who reached out to me when they saw this signing told me, this is usual thing. This is not the first time we've seen this before. And on the election day, you still see disappointments. But Madam Ene here has gone a bit of detailing to tell us that there are gaps. And personally, I have those concerns as well. This is not the first time INEC is having these MOUs, which is very good. It's a positive step in the right direction. Because frankly, INEC, I don't think they have 100,000 vehicles to deploy materials. I don't think they have 4,000. I know that at the last elections, they had a bit of 2015, they had a bit of issues, because I don't think they engaged the marine transport owners at that time. So they were contracting out, to companies and they were contracting out to companies to be able to look out for this. So it's good that this is more like a more inclusive arrangement, a more robust arrangement that have everybody get involved. Because, this is important, because for a citizen who wants to vote, frankly, the citizens just want to come out on election day by 8 o'clock, hoping that by 8:30 that everything is ready for them to cast their vote. It's not necessarily their business or their concern how you move these materials from point A to point B to get to the polling unit. So it's good that INEC have looked, and things have really changed. Because I know in the past, on election day, you see materials leaving local government areas, INEC local government offices down to polling units, which is quite a distance. So these things have been decentralized. I'm aware that INEC have what they call the racks, and they have what they call the super racks. So it's expected at the eve of the elections, both the materials and the personnel would have gone to the racks. And every registration area has a rack, so this makes it possible for you to get closer to the polling units. In places like in Niger State, I know there are places from the local government to the polling unit that takes as far as 2 to 3 hours before you can get to those polling units. So all of this arrangement, I believe that this is different, and I believe that all the gaps, so you see, it's not like the usual MOU where they draft MOU. A lot of expert engagement has happened all the gaps and all the loopholes and where they missed it in the past have all been put into consideration to ensure that there is no issues in this election. And this is not just about the election day, like Madam Ene was talking about NACO. So it's also before the election, moving these materials before the election date, even to the states. Because these are some of the reasons why we've seen in the past where INEC will postpone election, because the materials do not get to the states on time. So we want to believe that with all of these efforts that has been put in place, with this very inclusive arrangement that has been meant putting the maritime transport owners into this convention, that we are going to have a seamless, smooth, free, election. But what is important, we've seen it in past before, where some of this transport works. So it's important that the drivers understand the commitment that their leaders are giving on national TV, because beyond the MOU, the drivers need to understand how important this obligation is. We've seen situations where you see drivers on the morning of election, they are talking about fuel. They don't have fuel to get to the polling units. And in the past weeks now, we've been having fuel scarcity across Nigeria. We hope that if there is fuel scarcity by that time, that there must be an arrangement that must be put in place. And also paying them their stipends is another thing that beyond what is in the document, that it is followed to the latter, so that these guys get their stipends, because I know they don't pay them in full. I'm aware that in the past, a part of their stipends are given to them for them to be able to get to the polling unit and also stay in the polling unit and wait. So after election, they can take the personnel and the materials back to collation centers. So it's important they understand these things and understand that this is an obligation. We've also seen situations where you see drivers will bring materials to polling units and they go drinking. Before the election is done, they're already drunk. We've seen situations where they wake up on that morning, they're already drunk, and they find it very difficult to get to the polling units. So it's expected that the NRARTO should have drivers who know the terrain. You don't pick a driver who is from Imo State and let him, who is from, let's say, a local government in Obo, and get him to work in another local government, let's say, in Oru East. You have to get the people who know the terrain. So when they leave that morning, they get to the polling unit. So polls can open as stipulated by the electoral law by 8:30 a.m.
Now, Mr. Ahmed, yes, an issue has been thrown up which has to do with having to get the fine details of this MOU, peter down to the driver who is right there in the locality, for him to understand that this is a national assignment and this is the expectation from him at that level. How much of that is NATO as owner and working with the NURTW doing to make sure that these people are properly educated on what this assignment really entails?
Yeah, I think, thank you for that question. I think it's not just saying NATO come and do this job and then we throw out drivers on the streets just like that to go and do the work. No, we have to brief them. We have to sensitize them. And that's what we have been doing. This is an issue that is very, very serious because we are also committed to the electoral process, because we also feel we have a contribution to make sure that the country conducts a free and fair election. And that will be our own contribution, not just for the monetary aspect of it, but we are also patriotic Nigerians. So we are interested in making sure that free and fair election is held in this country. So one of the things is that we must make sure that drivers that are going to take part in the process are drivers with full sense of responsibility, drivers who know what they are doing, drivers who know the train, like my brother just said. Because knowing the places, that's the reason why I started by saying access. The issue of access is very, very important. Difficult trains are everywhere in the country. You go to Adamawa State to reach a certain location is not going to be very easy. And that's the reason why people that know that area very well will be the ones that will handle the job in those areas. And so we've kept all our chairmen in the 36 states and Abuja on alert. And we have told them to continually dialogue with the people that are going to take part in the exercise, to let them know that we are not in it to fail, we are in it to actually succeed, and to make sure that no problem arises as far as this one is concerned. And what will motivate that one, actually my brother has already said it also, is to make sure that INEC takes this thing serious and makes the necessary payment whenever it is required. As per the terms of the MOU, they make sure that they give that advance payment when necessary, because people will have to go and make sure they fuel their vehicles. They must make sure that everything in the vehicle is is operative very well, so that we don't have any problem. So our drivers are sensitized, they are educated, they know what they are expected to do, and we are not just sitting down like that. We continually, engage them to make sure that they do the right thing until the exercise is over. So it's not just a matter of...
Madam one critical concern about this election is security in certain places. And Mr. Ahmed made allusion to it when he spoke earlier on. The security of their men, the security of their vehicles, the security of the boats, and by implication, the security of the materials that they will be taking to these locations. What is the arrangement? What is in the MOU for that?
I think while the INEC chairman was speaking yesterday, he talked about even when you're having 4,200 boats, the Navy will cover them. And that's why I like the fact that all of the partners were present at the expert meeting. And Navy did bring us to the fact that there was a lot of wrecks on the Nigerian waters. And that sometimes impedes. And so you need people who understand the terrain. If not, you can go and hit something, at the waterways. It is important that those arrangements, and that's why they brought in not only the civil defense was at the meeting, immigration, customs, and what have you, road safety, every one of them were at the meeting, the Nigerian Army and all, covered. And all of them are involved to make a difference. What they want is for the lead agency, which is the police, to be involved, to make sure that they give the right call at a particular time. I think they all know their duties. And we had a lot of experts from logistics from all of these organizations, or the MDAs and so on. And so we're hoping, we know that there are crises here and there, and that is why INEC was also specifying that the reverse logistics is very, very important. You don't take people, the ad hoc work, the ad hoc men and materials to the field, and then you don't bring them back. Some of them had been abandoned in the past. Because when you abandon people, these people need to come back with the materials, with the election materials, the hard copies of the election itself. But when after voting, then they don't see that. I think all of these things, why these MOUs are important, and not just the MOUs, the meeting before the MOUs and the review, are important is that every sector is able to raise their concerns so that you know exactly where you may be failing. You see their challenges and also confusion. If you're able to meet it, very, very important. Timely release of funds, because some of the elections that we have monitored, I remember being in Oshun at a point when a driver did not report on time and the INEC officials were getting worried. And the guy said he didn't have fuel, that nobody gave him money and so on and so forth, while others have been on ground. And so the timeliness of bringing these people on board and ensuring that they are funded, even if it's half. And I think why INEC went to this half is the fact that sometimes when you pay the drivers, after they drop the people, they just leave. And so to cover the reverse logistics. So it's very, very important. We hope that both the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian, all the forces are engaged to make sure that people are protected. I think we are worried that the late arrival of materials and the ad hoc staff and also the staff, very, very important. If they have 8,809 polling wards.
Wards, yeah.
They have the wards, and then you have about 173,000, more than 173,000 polling units.
Yes.
These are things that, so you have people who are covering like 10 PUs, the monitors are covering, so they have everywhere that is strategized enough. But the security of both the material, both the vehicles, the materials, and the people that are working, very, very important. I think it's important to also know that, note that keeping focus, the neutrality, very, very important. That was stressed yesterday, the neutrality of those who are going to be on board. They are standing upright for Nigeria, where they are going to operate, the drivers and those who are going to handle. And it is legal. there's a legal document. I agree that, you know, at the state levels, there's going to be a down, you know, going to the other levels where you are going to bring in the regs of those states to get down and get the nitty-gritty. And so INEC can sue them if they don't respond. The NATO and the NURTW, they can sue them, but they can also sue INEC. Because if you don't give them what to do, you know, then you are going to hold them responsible. I think they need to know that this is a legal document. And they are going to go down and also get down to the strata of other signings of the details. Because the detailing, I'm worried that we are still waiting for the detailing. We should have the details by now so that people can know their responsibilities. But we hope they sensitize their members time enough about the contents of the MOU so that the drivers know that their union can be sued because of their irresponsibility or responsibility, and they can, you know, of course, claim kudos. They can be congratulated because they have done very well. But we are all in this together, and I hope that everybody takes responsibility seriously.
Mr. Ahmed, another issue has to do with possible security screening of those that, particularly the drivers, that will be going out. Is there any such arrangement, or are you anticipating anything of that nature to say, okay, let's screen each person that will be taking men and materials from one location to the other, have all their details recorded and all of that, so that when it does happen, you know who to hold responsible?
Yeah, I think there are a few, you know, things outlined, you know, to be done before even the election, which we have been discussing with the INEC already. For example, even the vehicles themselves will have to be screened, because a Federal Road Safety Code, they are part of the committees that we've been interacting with them in previous meetings we've had. And their responsibility is to make sure that, one, the vehicles that we're going to use are roadworthy.
So it will be vetted?
Yes, and the particulars, everything they have is there. And they are going to provide identification tags also for people that are going to participate. And all the vehicles will be carrying, you know, the posters or whatever. Yes, exactly. So that, you know, those vehicles are identified easily. They are known that they are on active national service, providing that kind of service. So there are some area of activities that will be taken care of to make sure that, you know, the vehicles, the personnel, the drivers, you know, they are authorized to carry out that exercise. I think that is part of it. I just want to also join Madam in requesting that please INEC should ensure that men and materials are early on ground so that our drivers also will not have to wait. Just like, because sometimes you also blame a driver that he hasn't come on time, but there are so many instances where drivers are around, but unfortunately no materials around to carry, you know, which is not consistent with the, you know, spirit of the MOU. So we are calling on INEC to ensure that materials needed for the election are very much in place before our even drivers get there, so that once they get there, they just start working immediately.
All right.
Just to say, Mark, that there will be tracking of the vehicles as well.
Good.
It's very, very important.
Yes.
INEC will be tracking the vehicles. Wherever they are going to be tracked. There will be no strangers driving, because that's why all of these things is localized. If you are from this local government, they will take, the transport is coming from the local government. And so there is a lot of documentation, so individuals are known. So
that nobody hijacks any vehicle along the way and then takes to whatever location he wants.
If it's hijacked, it will be tracked.
Mr. Njoku, I'll come back to you in a very short while to have a last word. On, but just to give you a preview of what I'll be expecting you to talk about, the synergy between all these arms in ensuring a successful logistics arrangement for the elections. But that's when we return from taking our social media segment on politics on social media.
I am Omari Ode. Presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, has told the organized labor that none of the major presidential candidates could be trusted with power and leadership. Tinubu stated this at a town hall meeting with the organized labor The APC candidate said he was the most qualified of the presidential candidates to lead Nigeria, stressing that he is the only one seriously involved in the fight for good governance. Let's head over to the comments, shall we? The reactions are saying, Kingsley is saying, is this one campaign? Is he campaigning? Our next comment is from Ramsey, who is saying, big joke. APC wants to save us from APC, and the most funny part is that they want to use a man with a questionable character. Is God not wonderful? And finally, concerning that, Chimezie is saying, when you don't have anything to offer, you resort to demarketing your opponent. Moving on, Nigerians are reacting to a recent video of the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Bola Tinubu, and his running mate, Kashim Shettima, interacting with a person living with disability, as well as handing out the newly designed Naira notes. But before we head to the comments, here's a short clip. To me, who is saying, if it is Peter Obi, you will call it compassion, you call it kindness. According to this video, he has not committed any crime. Stop politics of bitterness. Over to the candidates. Is this what our officers have been reduced to? Hope these guys know no one is immune from bad leadership. An emir of Onitsha, Buki, is saying, police NG lock up Tinubu, new notes that are being rationed in the banks. Tinubu is sharing it in thousands. And finally, concerning that story, Allison is saying he had a meeting with the people living with disability and gave them money. To be objective, there's nothing wrong in giving the needy. And finally, on politics on social media today, the withdrawal of the Director General of Obidati Campaign Organization, Doyin Okupe, is generating reactions. And our first reaction concerning this story is from Chuso, who is saying this is why Peter Obi's presidency will be the best in Nigeria. He will never condone corrupt acts irrespective of whose ox is gored. Peter Obi is not your regular Nigerian politician. I am glad Nigerians are embracing him. Next up, Greg is saying, as if he didn't know before now that he had a money laundering case hanging on his neck. The charges were there before he accepted to be the DG. He didn't see it fit to reject the appointments in the first place. Nigerian politicians will stain your whites. And Ifeanyi Stephen is saying, was the crime in question committed while in Labour Party? And what is the crime? That some money was paid to him which is above what should be collected by hand, but through the bank. But what about the man that had a bullion van in his Lagos residence? Is that comment directed to someone? And Osimokpa is saying this is the first time a Nigerian politician is resigning out of office after pleading guilty of a crime. It has never happened before. Well, that brings us to the end of politics on social media today. I am Omari Ode. Back to Amarere for the rest of the show.
Thank you so much, Omari Ode, for bringing the social media politics to us. There's so much to say. Nigerians are very, very fertile with their minds, and we'll continue to harvest those fertile views. But back here in the studio, Mr. Emmanuel Njoku, let's look at the synergy very quickly because we have very limited time left. Should be.
So as I want to talk about the synergy, I want to really hope and pray that the content of this MOU insists that the people who are going to work on election day, these transport drivers, will be from the places where they are registered to vote, so that they will be able to vote. 104,200 persons is a whole lot of votes. You know, the electoral law affects a lot of election workers like some of us that are not able to vote on election day, the media, the security personnel, and now these transport workers. We really hope that all these numbers will come from where they're registered to vote, so that they'll be able to vote. Now, talking about the synergy, this synergy for me lies fully. I mean, the responsibility beyond INEC being on time with the materials and payment. The major part here is this police, because the police is the lead agency as regards security. If the police ensures security, I do not think we'll have a lot of issues. And you know, when we have these conversations around elections being transparent, being peaceful, and we'll try to go around it, I think that this is the full responsibility of the Nigerian police to ensure that our elections are peaceful. So if the Nigerian police do their own part in ensuring security across these registration areas and wards and polling units across Nigeria, and INEC does their own part by providing the stipends in time so that these guys can fix their cars and provide fuel, and then the coppers and ad hoc staff are they are on time. The trend ones, because we've seen issues where close to the election, because of one news on social media about violence, some trend staff of ad hoc staff will withdraw. But INEC have already said they are training more than the number that they need. So they're going to have a reserve team of coppers who can always. So if all of these things is put in place, Nigerians, your own part is just to make your pick up your PVC and show up on election day, being sure that the polls will open by 8:30, and then you cast your vote and pick us a leader who will lead us to progress.
Thank you so much. Well, gentlemen and ladies, I want to thank you for coming on the program. NLB is Country Director, Action Aid Nigeria. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for
We have also been joined by Atiku Zelani Ahmed, who is the General Manager, Administration, National Association of Road Transport Owners, NATO. Thank you so much, sir, for finding time to join us. And of course, Emmanuel Njoku, who is the Director, Democracy and Governance Institute. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And to you, the viewer out there, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. We'll see you again tomorrow. That's on Thursday, when we bring you a fresh edition of The Road to 2023. Travel with us. Bye for now.